Imagine there's no heaven. No hell below us. Above us, only sky. Imagine no people watching this film. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Buttery Show, where we discuss all kinds of movies, TV shows, etc. And welcome to Grandma's house, in which you are trapped in for the entire month.
Oh,
What are your parents up to? Who knows? But you're spending the night at Grandma's house with us. So we're watching whatever's available on CBS, NBC, WB, ABC, KCAL9, Fox, or UPN, because those are the only channels available to you. But good news is, this week, the movie you're watching is not direct to video. This is actually a theatrical release, syndicated for your viewing pleasure. And I'm Mike, that's Clement, and we are your hosts for tonight's feature, Mr. Holland's Opus. Yes, it's a 1995 film featuring Richard Dreyfuss and Glenn Headley as a beautiful couple. Richard Dreyfuss plays a composer turned music teacher as he deals with the times. Yes, it's kind of like Forrest Gump, but but instead of being a satire of Americana, it's basically from the perspective of, a music teacher dealing with all the changes of humanity as he helps the students find theirs.
Yeah, so the film, like the story wise, it takes from the 1960s all the way till 1990s. So, but just by watching the film, it's from 1965 all the way till 1995. So, our music composer slash teacher, he has been a music teacher for almost 30 years. So in this film, we are witnessing 30 years of what he has done to the students at that specific high school.
Yep. And of course, this movie came out in, it came out on December 29th, 1995. So this movie is 29 years old. Well, almost 29 years old. And it had a budget of $31 million. Would you like to guess what the box office is?
Like 90 million?
Even higher. It made 106.3 million. So it's a little above 3 times its cost. So that's actually really well done. It is financially a successful film.
Yeah, any movies that's 3 times the budget successful. Yeah.
Yep. And it currently holds a 75% on the Freshometer. So hey, I'm glad it holds up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Roger Ebert gave the film 3.5 out of 4 stars. Honestly, I'll never understand why people use 4 stars. I'm more of a 5-star kind of guy, but 87.5% is still a pretty good score, all things considered. And this movie has its own foundation, apparently. Its composer founded the Mr. Holland Opus Foundation in 1996 for its committed to the future of musical education. And the film itself had a musical adaptation in 2022.
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting. I did not know. And apparently it featured B.D. Wong.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of interesting. So on the subject of the composer, let's talk about him a little bit. So, to my personal surprise, the name of this composer is named Michael Kamen. That's right. Kilo Alpha Mike Echo November. Michael Kamen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man,
What are the
if you
odds?
hear it, it's just in your head.
Yeah, it's apophenia. And what's really interesting is he did a lot of compositions. He for various films. For example, he was the composer for The Highlander, The Wall, Die Hard. He was in. He composed for Renegades, License to Kill, the Lethal Weapon franchise, Nothing But Trouble, Let Him Have It. Let's see, Tales from the Crypt, Splitting Heirs, Last Action Hero, Three Musketeers, more Die Hard movies. He did a number of Die Hard movies actually.
Yeah.
He did Jack. He did 101 Dalmatians. That's right, the live action 101 Dalmatians, the one I actually really liked with Jeff Daniels.
And with Glenn Close, right?
Close, yes.
Yeah.
And Arthur Weasley as Horace.
Yep.
Yeah, he did the Avengers. No, not the 2008 Avengers.
Not Joss Whedon's Avengers. It's like it's like a old spy
British
film,
spy film,
like
yes.
yeah, by with
Uma Thurman, Ralph Fiennes, and weirdly enough, Sean Connery in a bear suit.
James Bond himself, you know.
Yes.
But also he did X-Men.
Yeah.
And it's surprising that this week it's Deadpool and Wolverine weeks, and it's also like San Diego Comic-Con week.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I brought up X-Men, because hey, it's X-Men is trending. I feel like this is X-Men's year.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Michael Kamen did pass away in 2003. There were some projects that he did work on that they managed to release with his work posthumously, such as Against the Ropes, Back to Gaia, and the First Daughter, featuring Forrest Whitaker, who's also in this movie, by the way. So yeah, 2004 was the last year where his work was published. And he also did other concert works like Live at Hyde Park, S&M, The New Moon and the Old Moon's Arms, and Quintet. So yeah, he's a very accomplished film composer, and it's a darn shame that he died of multiple sclerosis and a heart attack. So you know, we tribute to you. It's kind of like having a stunt actor make a movie about a stunt man. Much the same, we have a film composer with a film about a composer. May you rest in peace, Michael Kamen. It is the 21st anniversary of your passing. So better late than never, I should say. So let's talk about the cast. So the lead actor is played by Richard Dreyfuss, who plays Glenn Holland, who is a music teacher at John F. Kennedy High School, and it's newly named John F. Kennedy High School because at the start of the film, they just started putting up the new letters for John F. Kennedy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So various films that Richard Dreyfuss was involved in. He was in a lot of things, but one of the most famous movies he was in included The Graduate, American Graffiti, Jaws, The Goodbye Girl, Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
What About Bob?
Yeah, What About Bob? And one of my favorite of his films is My Life in Ruins, which, by the way, we will be discussing in a later themed month. Not this month, but in a later month. We are going to go into that when we get to that month. So he was also in Last Stakeout, Silent Falls, American President. He played Dick Cheney in W.
Yep, and also he was in Jaws, and also I actually remembered him recently when I watched a film just yesterday that is Red, that is with Bruce Willis and Morgan Freeman. It's like those
and John
Malkovich. Yeah, Richard Dreyfuss is some kind of a drug lord, and
Yeah.
he just got slapped by Morgan Freeman. That was awesome.
Yeah, he was also in Poseidon, where in my Spanish class I had to write a paragraph playing the role of La Fantasma de Valentino. For those of you who don't know who Valentino is, he's the guy who died in the elevator shaft. I just thought it'd be like, because the project was we had to write a paragraph from the perspective of one of the characters in the movie. I'm like, anyone could be the main character, the little kid, his single mom, Richard Dreyfuss, the captain. But me, I'm like, I'd be the ghost of that one dude that died in the elevator shaft because he was done dirty. And oddly enough, in Piranha 3D, he reprised his role as Matt Hooper from Jaws.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was in a movie called Book Club, which for some reason had a sequel. I could not get into Book Club. I'm sorry to all you fans of middle-aged chick flicks, but it's not for me. Also, not a fan of 50 Shades, so why would I want to watch a movie about women reading 50 Shades? And of course for television, he was in Gunsmoke, That Girl, Fall Safe, The Day Reagan Was Shot, Ocean of Fear, Tin Man Coma, Madoff, Your Family Is Mine, Hit the Road, and Bubble Guppies.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and also he was a contestant on the Great British Bake Off.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Man, Richard Dreyfuss, he has done a lot of like great projects, like from the 90s to the early 2000s. Mm-hmm. Like he has done a lot of great film projects, and I can honestly say that he has done a lot of memorable roles. He made his roles like very memorable. So yeah, but in this movie, he is a music composer, and he was thinking like, oh, this teaching might not be something that he would put too much time and invest on, and he thinks that, oh, I'm just gonna put a little time just teaching these students, and just let's see what happens. And guess what? He well, what's up?
No. Free time as a teacher. That is the funniest joke in the entire film. I'm gonna be honest.
Oh yeah, that joke.
Free time as a teacher. Like if you know, you know. If you know, you know.
Yeah, and as he started teaching these kids how to play a music instrument, like there's this one student who has a hard time playing with the clarinet, and she was just like having a hard time playing a certain notes with the clarinet, and she just having doubts, and she's having self-doubts about her like skills of playing with the clarinet. She wants to make it fun, she wants to enjoy it, but then she compared to her siblings in her family that, oh, they're great at things, and she wanted to play the clarinet so well because she wants to be good at something. But but the teacher, but our teacher, he actually has something valuable. He has something very valuable that he'll teach to that student.
Yeah, what I find really interesting is this one particular line that the principal says, who's, by the way, is played by Olympia Dukakis. And what she says is a teacher needs to not only be an informant, but also needs to be a compass. You're really good at providing information, but you are no compass. And I find that interesting because like honestly, there's truth to that. Like there's more to being a teacher than just regurgitating information to the students. It's about, or teaching your students to regurgitate information. It's like you got to be like more involved in their lives, learn more about like what makes the students tick, and help them out on a level that helps them grow, not just as students but as people. And I love that we actually get to see this throughout the film, because I'm gonna be honest, like I've had both fantastic teachers and really crappy teachers. And Yeah, I mean, look, I mean, if the shoe fits, but yeah, no, I've had teachers that were willing to stay after school to help me like understand material. I've had teachers who said that like they believed in me, where like other teachers said I wouldn't even like finish middle school. And some teachers like even helped me like during my college years in certain like professional ways. So like to the teachers that actually went above and beyond, I really salute you guys because it's like, to paraphrase Keanu Reeves, any mook with a teaching credential can be a teacher, but only like someone who's like really invested can be like an actual educator.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I had my fair shares
Mhm.
of good teachers
Mhm.
and like very challenging teachers, but in the end they taught me a lot. And like there's this one specific
Mhm.
teacher, she taught me in speech pathology, and like I took ELD, I took study skills. I had a
Mhm.
hard time reading and understanding English because Mandarin was my first language, but I still keep them in contact as sometimes, and I just told them that I thanked them for their time and their dedication to help me during my school years. And I told them that this is where I am, and their response is that they're so proud of me, that how I turned out.
Mhm. Yeah.
Just hearing
Um.
that from your teacher is just brings a lot of great self-confidence and brings you that strength that you can do anything.
Yeah. Meanwhile, in contrast, we have the vice principal, uh, Vice Principal Walters, who is played by William H. Macy. Okay, what can I say about William H. Macy? Like, he was in a lot of things that we are very familiar with.
Well, he
He
was the he was in Shameless, the
Yes,
American
he
version.
he played Frank Gall. He's currently most famous for playing Frank Gallagher in the American version of Shameless. It lasted 11 seasons, and he was there from the first episode to the last. Very appropriate ending. Not gonna lie, I actually enjoyed the ending of Shameless. He was also in 4 seasons of ER, and then he would come back as a cameo in the final season. And boy, do I remember the final season, because that was when I went back to watching NBC because I liked, My Name is Earl, The Office.
Hmm.
What else was there? My Name is Earl, The Office, Community, Parks and Rec. Yeah, I think that's. Oh, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Those are the big four for me. Yeah, he was also in films such as War Games, Homicide, Hey Alan.
Oh yeah, he was also in Jurassic Park 3.
Hey Alan.
Yeah, he is the heavy mustache father in
Yeah.
Jurassic Park 3 that's trying to find their son that's lost in the island.
Yeah. He was also in that weird Vince Vaughn remake of Psycho.
Oh yeah, that one. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he was also in Magnolia, Cellar, Sahara, Bobby. Yeah, he was in the film Bobby. Uh
Hmm.
let's see, he was in Wild Hogs with several other classic American actors like Martin Lawrence and John Travolta and Tim Allen. He was in The Maiden Heist, Dirty Girl, Shorts, The Sessions, Trust Me, Two-Bit Waltz, Walter, The Room. Not the 2003 Room. I'm talking about the one with what's her name?
Brie Larson.
Brie Larson, that's the one. Yeah, I remember. It was someone named after cheese. So, let's see. Surprisingly, it's a Brie Larson movie that did not feature Samuel L. Jackson.
Mm.
Ricky Sticky, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes was one of his most recent films, and he has two other upcoming films that are currently filming and or in post production. As far as TV goes, as I mentioned, he was in ER, Law and Order, more Law and Order, more ER. He was in Hercules, the animated series. Door to Door, The Simpsons as himself, A Very Muppet Christmas Movie, which I have on DVD, by the way. And of course, the famous show that he's been in recently, Shameless, and he was in Dropout, and he's currently in The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. So any William H. Macy roles that you're particularly a fan of?
William H. Macy?
Yeah.
I don't see it. I see him in very couple of films, but I see his face a lot. But the only project I see him like mostly his face is just Shameless. Like
Yeah.
he's already making himself like very very well known for his role as Frank Gallagher in that show.
Yeah.
So, cheers to you, William H. Macy, for doing so many other like iconic other like roles in major films. But
Yeah.
yeah, your TV run as Frank Gallagher in Shameless gonna be run is gonna go down in history like for in the books for sure.
Yeah, and also Richard Glenn Holland's wife Iris is actually played by Glenn Headley, and I'd have to say, like, what the one film that I will always remember her for being in is also probably my most favorite Steve Martin film of all time, and possibly my most favorite Michael Caine film, and my second most favorite Ian McDiarmid film, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. Yes, she played Janet. So Iris, you are a jackal by night, but by day you will always be my soap queen. If you've seen the film, you'd know. And yes, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels is a remake of Bedtime Story featuring Marlon Brando, and it in itself was remade into the Hustle starring Rebel Wilson. Let's see. Some of her other films she was in were Fandango, Stars and Bars, Making Mr. Knight, Ordinary Magic. She was in one of the X-Files movies. She was in Sergeant Bilko, so that's another Steve Martin film she was in. Eulogy, Namesake, Don John with what's his name? Joseph Gordon-Levitt. She was also in The Circle and Just Getting Started. As far as TV shows go, she had a recurring role on ER. She was in Frasier, Hotel Room, Lloyd in Space. That's right. She was in the TV show Lloyd in Space. She was in she had cameos in Grey's Anatomy, CSI, Crime Scene Investigation, Psych, Pound Puppies, Parks and Recreation. Yeah, she was Ben Wyatt's mom. I completely forgot about that. And of course, she was in Future Man with what's his name, Josh Hutcherson. And interestingly enough, she was married to John Malkovich of all people. So we're going back to Red.
Oh,
yeah. But yes, I it just so happens that I myself have met John Malkovich. So yeah. Were there any Glenna Headley films that you particularly remember enjoying?
Glenna Headley, not particularly. Like, I've no. This is my first after watching Mr. Holland's Opus. Like, this is my first time seeing her face. But yeah.
Well, I'll say this: definitely watch Dirty Rotten Scoundrels.
Dirty Rotten Scoundrel.
Yes.
Okay.
I definitely recommend you watch that film. Steve Martin, Michael Caine, Ian McDiarmid, Glenn Headley.
Oh yeah, Steve Martin. Okay.
Yeah. So now we have a movie for him to watch. Of course, we already reviewed that film on our other podcast that basically got merged over. Now, let us know in the comments. You guys think we should like redo a bunch of our Scrub Club Cinema Presents reviews right here on the Buttery show? Let us know in the comments. Of course, we already did the first Spider-Man movie, so like we can skip that one, no problem.
Yeah.
But if we do, I'm not looking forward to doing the Transformers and Terminator movies.
Oh.
So we did all of those. All 5 Transformers movies, all 6 Terminator movies.
Yeah, so as we move on to the film, like, there's a certain scene, like, what was that? Like, after, so the lesson that, what did the lesson that that he taught to the girl with the clarinet?
So basically he taught, so all the kids, they love rock and roll, and they don't have any appreciation for music appreciation.
Oh yeah,
yes.
Because
so he teaches that like, hey, rock and roll is based on Bach. Wait, hold on, that's Mozart. Hold on. Then wait, no, that's Beethoven. Hold on. Toccata Fugue in D minor. Very, very gothic in design. And honestly, I appreciate that, because a lot of people don't realize is that heavy metal gets a lot of its fundamentals from classical music. Like if you played Mozart's 40th Symphony with what's it called? Enter Sandman by Metallica, you might notice that there's some overlap in the combinations of chords and phrases.
Yeah.
And it's really impressive.
Yeah. So remember, guys, like when you listen to music, remember classic music composers were the ones that started it all. And like with those kind of musics, like those are just inspiration to like all the music artists that are today. Rap, like K-pop. Hey, even K-pop. I know K-pop is trending like these last couple of these last few years because of with all the music, and that's going way up on the billboards. And trust me, all these musics that you're all listening today traces right back to the old classical like orchestra.
Yeah, it's just like how a lot of modern films can be traced back to Shakespeare. Like and like I love watching this one Flash feature. It's like it's like one of those like interactive DVD type of things, but it's on a Flash player where Ian McKellen like sits down and talks to you about William Shakespeare, and he especially makes it a point of how like Lord of the Rings and X-Men were both based on Shakespeare plays. And then he discusses the opening soliloquy from Rich III. Now it's the winter of our discontent, may glorious summer by the son of York. Like he actually breaks down that soliloquy as to like why Shakespeare chose to use this language, this cadence. Like now, oh, that's a powerful word. Now, not before, not after, now.
Yeah, and to you, like, what is music? What does music mean to you?
I see you took a cue from the actual lesson. Well, to me, music is sort of like the heartbeat and blood flow of the artistic world around us. It's universal. Like even though different forms of music have different origins, it connects us in ways that we can't really put into like words or images. It's one of the I always say that for every country, it must be proud of 3 things above all else. The first is their flag. The second is their food. and the third is their music. Like you really meet because a flag, like it's your identity, but the other two things, it connects your identity to others. And like these things, they can be combined and synthesized and make something new from it. Even rock and roll music combines Irish river music with American blues. And it's through rock and roll that we have country and hip hop.
Yeah.
And from hip hop, we have rap. And from both and also we have disco, and combining disco and hip hop, we can also say we have EDM. Not a fan of EDM. It's probably the one genre I dislike the most, but other people like it, and I won't hold it against you. But everything's just interconnected. Like, I mean, I would have to say the one synthesis I'm not a fan of is when someone just makes a club mix of an older song, like when Pitbull did that cover of "You Spin Me Right Round" by Dead or Alive. Like, I really hate Pitbull's version of the song because there's a certain poetry, a certain euphemism, a certain reading between the lines in the original Dead or Alive version, but then Pitbull just got rid of that subtlety. So, and I'm pretty sure Noemi would agree with me. I'm not a fan of Jennifer Lopez's cover of Lambada. Yeah. It's like, I grew up with Lambada in a very politically incorrect scene of a Soviet cartoon. Like that is what I associate Lambada with, because that's how I was exposed to it. But even that, it has a certain nostalgic sanctity that Jennifer Lopez just kind of ruined for me. But the biggest offender is Elton John, who made his own club mix. He was involved in the club mix of his own song Rocket Man. I'm like, it's like, why do you have to shoot yourself in the foot like that? Your own song, like you know that scene from Full Metal Alchemist where with the talking chimera. It's your own song, you jerk. Perfect, and then you ruined it.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah. But naturally, this girl, like, she graduates, and we time skip a little bit to the late 60s.
Yes.
And yeah, so William H. Macy is a little bit of a stick in the mud about using rock and roll to save your mortal soul, but he compromises if he gets the students to work on the marching band. Yes, and with the help of the PE coach, he does pull it off as long as he teaches Russ how to play an instrument. Any instrument. What about electric guitar? Yeah, I don't think a chord is gonna be safe out on the football field. How about a drum? Ooh, I love drums. And he helps him get rhythm. It's like a racially swapped version of Steve Martin from The Jerk.
Yep, and no other to play those drums than in the young Terrence Howard.
Yes, the original Rhodes.
The original roadie for Iron Man in the first film, and he has been doing he did a lot of sitcom appearances, movies, and I would say his memorable role from Empire in those TV shows, and Hustle and Flow when he creates that trick. That's kind of funny.
Yeah.
So yeah, Terrence Howard, he is learning to play the drums, and he was a little bit the rhythm was a little bit off, but he said he works hard, and he did. He worked hard and he kept up with the class, and guess what? He nailed it. And
he graduated.
Yeah, he graduated. He did so well. And as times went by,
well, there's one more thing we need to talk about that time period. So they got the marching band going, so much so that they were able to march at the town parade. Mm-hmm. But when fire engine siren goes off, we are met with a very unfortunate realization.
Yes,
Yes,
our music teacher, Mr. Holland, his son is,
Coltrane.
yep, Coltrane Holland is deaf.
Yeah, and he was so devastated too because as a musical composer and teacher, he wanted nothing more than to like share his love of music with his son. He even named his son after Coltrane.
Yep. And
Yeah.
it's so hard to share that passion when your offspring is like at 90% of hearing loss.
Yeah.
And 90%, like, it's tough, and that means it's like hearing aid, and during that time hearing aid devices were not that like efficient, like not as it not what it's like today, but back then it like it wouldn't be efficient for comparing our hearing aid device that is made today. But he had to go to like sign language, a special school to develop like hand gesture, sign
Yeah.
language, and all that. Man, it was a sad moment in that film.
Yeah, yeah. So, sometimes I wonder. This is kind of like juxtaposed to a question that was asked him in the movie. Is like, it's like I understand if someone was born deaf, like they would like pretty much like learn sign language like from jump, like just like how like you would learn your own native language from jump. And sign language is basically its own language in its own right. Uh, but like, how does a person who becomes deaf after the fact learn sign language, especially a child? Like that's what I'm curious about. Like, because it's like you basically are behind your peers in that regard. So
Hmm.
like I do wonder about that a little bit. Just sort of like a educational curiosity type of question. You know, because and the question asked in the actual film was like, how did Beethoven know like what a C is if he can't hear what a C is? But the thing is, Beethoven wasn't born deaf. He knew what music sounded like, and then he used tricks like putting his head against the floor after sawing off the legs of his piano to use the vibrations from the floor to help him feel the music.
Hmm.
But it's like, how does someone who is born deaf like experience music? So
and and guys, remember Beethoven, he what lived in what year, like in 1700s or something?
give or take.
Let's see, Beethoven, like,
What I do know is that he was very muscular. Loved a good arm
uh
wrestle.
remember he was born in like in during the 18th century.
Yep.
And like, I don't know, man, like if you're deaf during that time, I don't know what the life is like during the 18th century, but man, if I were deaf and things are not like, if I can't hear anything, I don't know how I can go through it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's tough because things like this, like being able to see and hear, are things we take for granted. Actually, I would even go as far as to say that like smelling and tasting are things we also take for granted. But
Mhm.
it's not like we rely on smell and taste for day-to-day activity as much as seeing and hearing,
Yeah.
but it's because we over rely on those two senses though. Like other mammals, like they do like put more emphasis on smell, and good for them. But we humans kind of stopped doing that for some reason. But I would say, as a human being, we should like try to like take the time to appreciate all eight of our senses, not just the two easy ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And by the time like he what was that? Like, we are going at, where is it now? He's like, oh yeah, Beethoven. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so Holland, like, I don't know. After he found out that his son was deaf, like, he kind of like put more time on his students because, oh, of course, they can listen and appreciate music with him, but it's just hard to like
Connect with his
to
son
connect
about
with the son because he was like having he has this like hearing disability.
Did you ever have that kind of feeling where like you're like one of your parents wants you to appreciate something that they're passionate about, but for one reason or another, because you don't feel that same passion, like they kind of like drift away from you in some way?
Well, yeah, well, there's some like
Mhm,
my dad. He is into pinball. He is into baseball,
mhm,
and he is into like he's into like health, and he's like into those doctor like health
mhm,
and health health. He even went. He has like an MBA. He knows. He loves to read a lot. My dad loves to read, and
mhm,
he loves music. He loves movies. He loves pinball and baseball. But the things that I couldn't get along with him when I was young was like, I have to say, was baseball. My dad loves
mhm,
baseball. He would love to those go to those baseball games, but I just didn't have that same passion
mhm,
that he has. I wish there was something that we can both share, but the only thing we both
mhm,
share are movies.
mhm.
That is the one
Y-
thing.
Yeah, for me, I'd have to say sports is probably the thing for me drifting from my dad because like pretty much the only two things he really liked were football and boxing. But the thing is, it's like because of like all the bullying I went through, like I kind of like lost my interest in sports in general. Like, yeah, I've taken swimming and karate, but it's like I definitely did not care for the cardiovascular component of playing football or just just boxing because that requires hit. By
Mhm.
hit, I mean high intensity interval training.
Oh yeah.
um, but I also like did not care for like watching sports like even in general. I just like did not care for watching sports like football, baseball, hockey, American football, rugby. I mean, I like sports more now, but that's because it's like I have a different mindset now, and it's not like I go out of my way to like watch FIFA or whatever boxing tournaments going on right now. It's just but it's like if I sat down and like watched a game, like I know the rules of the game. I'm like, okay, like this guy should have been here, done that, blah blah blah, and I'd be right, but and right now I am playing more sports like in my personal life, unfortunately not team sports so much, but it's because like but again it's because like I wanted to like be the pinnacle of both mind and body. But like growing up I was more focused on improving my intelligence than my physical athleticism. But unfortunately, it wasn't until like I was 30 that I found that like I've come to the conclusion that, yeah, you know what? A healthy body also means a healthy mind. So, yeah, I actually should work out in addition to read books. You know,
Hmm.
maybe I have both a mind and a sword, so I need books and a whetstone. Yes, that's the Game of Thrones reference. Yeah, but I feel like there's still a disconnect to some capacity, but that's why I appreciate those moments where we would go see a hockey game because it's like the only thing we could really connect on.
Yeah,
Mhm,
of course. And baseball recently is getting more interesting, and like you know throwing that baseball up in the air and catching it and just getting the hang of it. It improved my hand-eye coordination and improved like some things in me. And you know, I kind of use the baseball as more like like a stress relief tool
yeah.
because a lot of sports can be a great can be a great
Mhm,
tool for any kind of form for anything.
Oh, absolutely.
And
Yeah.
it's beautiful that our mind can find millions or thousands or even hundreds of options that what we can use for sports.
Hmm. Yeah. Like,
You'd be surprised, everybody.
yeah. Yeah. For me, it's like I started playing basketball recently and it turns out basketball has way more cardio than like you than I could have possibly imagined. Like I'm more tired in 10 minutes of just throwing shots and just like not even running around, just throwing shots than like running on a treadmill for half an hour. How do basketball players do this? But I will say, but I'll say this, it created opportunities that I did not imagine I could. For one, I learned new combinations of body motions that I previously would not be able to even think about just by doing lunges and chest presses and warrior ropes and elliptical machines. And also I got my ass handed to me by Nikolai Nikolaev. So,
Mhm.
like I will figure out a way to defeat you, and then your rhino spirit will belong to me. But but
Yeah.
yeah, but also music is a big stress relief for me as well because mainly like heavy metal. Like for me, heavy metal like super relaxing, while that calming piano music that they play at a dentist's office gives me tremendous anxiety.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so that's kind of funny. Yeah.
Yeah, so in the beginning of Mr. Holland's teaching career at the school,
Yeah.
like in the beginning it was clarinet, the girl who has self-doubt on her own skill. Then the athlete who believes that he can work hard, but he just wants to expand his horizon by playing the instrument, and he believes that practicing and disciplining yourself can help you get to where you are. And Mr. Holland helped him that. Now the next student was some girl named Rowena. She
Actually, just before that, there was a gentleman, in the early 1970s. Basically, he's a delinquent. He's failing classes,
but
so he has to run.
All.
Yeah, he kind of looks like Kevin Jonas.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but no, he's not Kevin Jonas. Kevin Jonas was too young to play that role back then. But before he gets to leave with his punishment assignment, Glenn gets a letter from the office, and he tells him to meet him at 10 in the morning, because as it turns out, it's still 1973. The Vietnam War is going on, and turns out they're going to a funeral for Russ. Sadly, even though Russ learned to play the drums and fulfill his wrestling career, unfortunately, he was drafted to Vietnam and he was killed. Oh, he was KIA.
Yeah. Yeah, during that time it was very controversial. It's very conflicting, and I read the history about it, and living in America during that time of war was just there's even issues going on at home besides at the battlefield in Vietnam.
There was McCarthyism and Second Red Scare, the Cold War, the arms race,
the peace of love era.
Yeah, and some hippie protesters even escalated to becoming full-fledged terrorists.
Yep.
Yeah, it really sucks because some hippies they genuinely wanted peace and non-violence, but some of them just took it too far, and they became the very thing that they were opposed to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's plenty of Vietnam era movies that we can like talk about. One of which being Forrest Gump. I mean, much like Mr. Holland, it takes place throughout the entire century, or half century in this case. But they did put a lot of emphasis in the Vietnam era for Forrest Gump, so that's kind of like why that one should be especially brought up. But yeah, no, there was a draft and everything, and like you either go to Nam or you go to prison for draft dodging.
Oh yeah, that
And
was tough.
and if you're and like the way the draft worked is that in 1969 they had like a sort of a lottery where like they had like 366 capsules, and inside each capsule would be a birth date, and basically they would roll them out one at a time and then put them in order of when it was pulled. And basically the first 120 birth dates that were pulled would basically go straight to front lines. The next 120 birth dates would be in the Army Reserves, while the remaining 126 names would be safe. Like you're not in the front lines, you're not a reserve, but watch out though, there might be a second draft. Basically, it was their way of saying like, how do we fairly decide who goes to the front lines first? And basically they held the lottery, and let's just say I am glad that I wasn't in America in 1969, because as much as I would love to see Jimi Hendrix perform at Woodstock, yeah, my birth date is single digit on the draft list.
Oh man,
it's that high up. It's so high up that I memorized every birth date that is above it. So, like, number 1 is September 14th. Number 2 is April 24th. Number 3 is December 3rd. Yeah, I can keep going.
Yeah. But I can't imagine, like, as an Asian American, to be part of that Vietnam War draft. Yeah, like,
or an African American for that matter, because like you guys would be. Oh, to be fair, Jews would have other type of issues dealing in America, namely the McCarthyism, because basically there's this misconception that all Jews must be communist sympathizers, probably.
Oh man. Yeah, so after like a little tribute like clips of like from Richard Nixon's era to the Vietnam War and to John Lennon and Jimi Hendrix, we go to like the
1980s.
The singing. Yeah, in the 1980s, and we get to see a new students, and they are trying to do a musical. And this student named Rowena, she's a singer, and this is like it's like this is like the second stage of like what music is about, because in the first stage, the students, they learn the music comes from an instrument. Now, this second student, she is singing, so music can also come from the human, that is the voice, vocals.
Yeah.
And like we see this girl Rowena, she's a very talented like singer, and she could have a great career in Broadway. And like she had this like special connection with the teacher, Mr. Holland, and she even offered him to like run away with her to New York to start like this this career together, because they believe that their talents will be like valued in New York, because New York in 1980s at the time was the rising
late 70s.
Yeah, in the late 70s was like the rising point of like entertainment in Broadway.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And but thankfully, he didn't run away with her because that would be totally creepy.
Uh-huh.
Um, but but then we skip to the year 1980, where we find out that John Lennon was assassinated, and that especially hit Glenn because he was a big fan of John Lennon and the Beatles.
Mm.
And this is kind of like where like his relationship with the son reached a breaking point because like during like when his son became a teenager, he wanted to go into astroscience, which is great, in
Mhm.
space no one can hear you scream. uh but I apologize if that joke came off uncouth, uh, but now it's like it hit a breaking point because not only is Glenn constantly annoyed with Cole, like just existing, because like it was like a part where he blew up on him just because like he wanted to open a window.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the John Lennon thing, like that's where like it really hit a breaking point because it's like where he's like, don't talk to me like I'm stupid. I like just because I can't hear doesn't mean I don't know who John Lennon is. Doesn't mean I don't know who the Beatles are. Maybe I do appreciate music, even if I don't have the full ability to experience it. But maybe you should have been a better father and helped me appreciate it more.
Mm.
Good point.
Yep.
It's a good old fashioned daddy wasn't there to take me to the fair to change my underwear. Yeah. So
Yeah.
so finally, like having his epiphany, he decides to have a concert at the ASL school that Cole studied at, where he's gonna have like a concert with visual cues. So the student with hearing disabilities would be able to enjoy the thing. And I especially love this joke he makes. It's like, for those of you who are hard of hearing, be glad to have your disability because that way you don't have to hear my awful singing. And for those of you who aren't hard of hearing, you have my deepest apologies.
Yep.
What's funny is that this kind of reminds me of this classmate I had back at CSUN. Uh, there are like there's two kinds of deafness. Where there's one where it's an osseous issue, where your bones are not your like the bones in your middle ear are not vibrating and then sending the signals to your brain, and that's why you use a hearing aid because it sends vibrations into your auditory nerve so that it basically
Yeah.
bypasses your ear so that like it sends the signal directly to the brain.
Mm.
But then there's another form of deafness where the actual auditory nerve is damaged, and unfortunately, that also means that even a hearing aid won't help you. Like you're just completely just deaf because like there's no way to send those electrical signals to the brain. So this classmate of mine, he had that second kind, the one where hearing aid won't help him, and oddly enough, he's a DJ.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's a DJ. He makes his own music, and it's really cool too. Because like one time we were studying at the campus pub, and sometimes there's like a live performance going on there. So there's a group of DJs that are like practicing. They're
Yeah.
like trying to set up for their show for later that night, and then I tell my classmate, yeah, I am jealous of your deafness at this moment because these guys sound incredibly terrible, and he responds to me by saying, I have to disagree with you. I think they sound amazing. And that is why I appreciate Toph from Avatar because she made the exact same joke at the end of the show. It's like, really? I think you all look amazing. That was the last line in the entire show.
Yep.
But yeah, no, it's he. So basically, he does a cover of one of John Lennon's songs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Beautiful Boy, Darling Boy.
Yeah.
Really great song. It's not from his second album, which unfortunately is the only album I have of John Lennon's during his solo career. Um, no, Double Fantasy was the fifth studio album. So I'm a little behind on that one. I'm a little behind on that one, but it was great. But we skipped to 1995 where we find out, unfortunately, that after 30 years of being a high school teacher, yeah, William H. Macy made those last budget cuts to, and yeah, Glenn is fired.
Yep.
But and as he, Iris, and Cole like pack up his office, they hear a strange noise in the auditorium, so they go to check it out, and what they find is all of his students from the
Mm-hmm.
last 30 years. And all of them are just applauding him. And then turns out that girl with the clarinet became the mayor of their state. No, sorry,
Yep.
no, the governor of their state.
Yeah.
And she made a speech about like how it's like you spent the last 30 years talking about your opus, how you wanted to write this amazing composition, and you never had a chance to because you were so focused on helping us grow into amazing successful adults that we are. All of us are your opus, so now all of us are gonna play your opus. And like just seeing her like sit down and play the clarinet, like it was just really tear jerking to see that happen like at the end of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and yeah, the composition's called An American Symphony, and yes, it was orchestrated by Michael Kamen. May he rest in peace. Um, yeah, and I'm gonna be honest, An American Symphony was just an amazing piece, and I'm glad I got to hear it like properly because when I first saw this movie, and we didn't talk about like our first time watching this movie, but I can assume that this is your first time seeing this film.
Yeah, this is my
Yeah,
first time seeing
yeah.
this.
So for me, I again, just like with the previous two films, it involved channel surfing. But I started this film like part way in, like just before he was asked to start the marching band. But I didn't get to see the film all the way through. I think I stopped at around the part where he was saying goodbye to Rowena.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So getting to see the movie all the way through, it's like it just felt so heartwarming to hear this composition at the end because this is like 30 years of his life where like he dedicated to these kids who are now adults. And like if and it makes me think of how like if I could make one person's life more amazing in 10, 20, 30 years later, I feel like I've done my job as a human being.
Yeah, and you know, okay, to all you viewers out there, like when we go to school, ever wonder you have that certain teacher that can change your life? Well, in this movie, this teacher, Mr. Holland, he changed all of his students' lives that were in his class, and he put it 30 years into that. And you never know that certain person in in your classroom can actually bring some new can teach you like new things about life rather than like from a book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'm telling everybody who is watching this that like learn from those who are teaching you things, because learning can help you expand your mind, build up new perspectives, and bring new valuable like moral values in life for life. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. And at the end, all those students that were were the school alumni that were in Mr. Holland's class, like they all played together and they performed together just to as like a thank you as a thank you send off note to their teacher, Mr. Holland, for 30 years of his years at the school. It's beautiful. Yeah.
Hmm.
And he created, I think he did create a masterpiece in the end.
Hmm.
That is his students.
Yeah. I have to agree with you on that one. And so, what are your final thoughts on this film, and what score would you give it?
I give this movie a 5 out of. I give this movie like a 5 out of 5. It's very
Oh,
beautiful.
10 out of 10.
Yeah, 10 out of 10 because it's. I love the message. I love how it's beautifully delivered, and well, like a lot of things are mixed into this film, and like you said, it's like Forrest Gump, but in the but it being told in like a music teacher sort of way.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's so good and I love it so much.
Hmm.
So I would share this to like my family. I would share this film with my family because it's like it's beautiful. I love the storytelling and I just love the lessons and the message
Hmm.
behind it at the end of the film.
Yeah,
So,
no, I agree. Yeah, like I really loved Richard Dreyfuss in My Life in Ruins.
mhm.
So like, but like I didn't really get to see that many Richard Dreyfuss films in general. But it's kind of interesting that this one just happened to exist in my childhood, and it just sort of went on the wayside.
Yeah.
And you know what? I am really glad that on social media with those different reels of like random movie clips where they don't say the title of the movie, and then you have a bombardment of people commenting, "What's the title of the movie? What's the title of the movie? What's the title of the movie?" I'm glad that in the plethora of scenes from Shameless and Game of Thrones and the occasional Grey's Anatomy, we got this one clip from Mr. Holland's Opus that sparked like this tiny sliver of memory deep in the darkest crevices of my mind,
Yeah.
where I was, because it's like something about this film feels familiar. I don't know what. And I'm like, wait, is this that one movie where like that music teacher was really angry and he had a son who was deaf? What's that movie called? So like that's all I remember. You got a music teacher and his son was deaf. But I'm glad that like that clip came, because then I remembered that a movie with that vague premise I ended up remembering, and then I went and done more research and found, oh, Mr. Holland's Opus. Oh, this is that movie. What other movies did I see in that time period like this? And like we wouldn't have these four movies. We wouldn't have we wouldn't have our review of Pump Up the Volume or Family Torn Apart of this movie, or In His Father's Shoes, which is the next movie that we are going to be discussing. By the way, let me just pull up the thing. There we go. And yeah, it's I appreciate this, and just like with Pump Up the Volume, I appreciate this movie now as an adult than I did as a kid, because like back then it's just a movie about like, oh, a guy who's teaching music and he's always angry. Here it's like, I understand why you're angry now, because you feel like part of your life is being taken away from you while not realizing the positive impact you've made on others. So you're not always like in the moment. Listen to what Qui-Gon Jinn said. Be present. Be mindful of the living force. And it's like watching It's a Wonderful Life, but without the part where he goes super emo and decides, I wish I was never born, and then seeing how horrible things would have been if like Russ never learned to play the drums, or if what's her name did not learn to play the clarinet. Yeah, or if Rowena didn't follow her dreams to go to New York and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, and obviously Cole wouldn't be born either, and maybe Cole might become like one of the most important astronauts in human history, even though he decides to become a teacher at the end of the movie anyways. But yeah, thankfully we did not have that. That would be obscenely hackneyed. I'm glad we did not do that. But we still have that lesson. I'm glad we could teach the same lesson without doing the same techniques in story writing. I appreciate that. And yes, this movie is phenomenal. It makes me appreciate how important it is to remember the teachers that had a positive impact on my life and reject the teachers that had a negative impact on my life. And also I, as a human being, whether as an actual teacher or just not as a teacher, but still a human being, we are all teachers to the next generations. Like, we need to like set the standards of like positive reinforcement of having people follow aspirations, learn new horizons, see, like, synthesize between things that we don't understand and the things we want to enjoy, because everything is connected and they overlap, and the universe is so beautiful in that way. It makes me want to cry right now. But yeah, so this is a very rare instance. Like, you almost never see me do this. But today is your lucky day, because this film got a 10 out of 10 out of me. Very short list. But this film was a 10. Yes, welcome to the Pantheon, Mr. Holland. Welcome to the Pantheon. You're right up there with Speed, The Mask, Revenge of the Sith, Goodfellas, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, Holes, Devil's Advocate.
Yeah, this movie would probably be on the top 25 with me. Yeah. So yeah, and I'm also going to share this to my nieces and nephew that are they're trying to get into, like, understand about movies. So yeah, overall, this is a great film, and I did cry, and it was beautiful, and yeah. So Richard Dreyfuss, you're amazing. And
and Ryan, it's your turn to watch the film. I know you said you're busy with work today, and I respect that. But now it's your turn to watch the movie.
Yeah, he still has Disney Plus, so
you
can't avoid that.
Yeah, no, you can't avoid that. See, me, I rented the movie from the library.
Oh yeah. Movies from the libraries. Yeah, movies in the libraries are now today's like current blockbuster.
Yeah, pretty much, except now you don't have to pay late fees anymore.
Yep.
No, and that's insane. It's like, what's insane is like when I found so like recently, like a few months ago, I got a library card from the Glendale library system, which is a separate system from the LA Public Library. And what I found interesting is that their rules are different too, because it's like in LA Public Library, you can only rent up to 3 discs, 3 movies, or 10 audio CDs, and you can only rent movies for 3 days or audio CDs for 1 week. And but if it's an educational film, then it's a 7-day rental instead of a 3-day rental, and you have to manually renew them during every renewal period for up to 3 renewals. In the Glendale system, you can like both audio and video combined, you can rent up to 100 discs. 100 discs, and each renewal period is 3 weeks. Flat rate, 3 weeks, and it renews automatically. That is obscenely forgiving. And yes, in the central library, they do have QQ Sentai Go-Go 5 on DVD. I was genuinely surprised by that. Because like you would never catch that like in LA Public Library. They would never be caught dead having Super Sentai in their system. And believe me, I wish they would. But yeah, so this movie, fantastic. And let's see what the comments have to say. So Dorsey Aliana says hi. Hi Dorsey, how are you doing?
Oh, hello.
Triple OXYZ says, I love this film. It was also my first Richard Dreyfuss film and my first Will Macy film. All right.
Oh, okay.
That's cool. Nothing Macy can do now can ever top his role as Frank Gallagher. Frank.
The lovable, homeless, druggy father.
Yeah. I'll say this. Carl's my all-time favorite character. Yeah. Kevin teams up with Sergeant Winslow, so you know. I also thought that the American Symphony was really tear-jerking. Oh, that's sweet. What was your favorite musical era?
Oh, musical era. I don't know. There's so many musical eras.
I mean, I have to say,
I like both.
I have to say, for me, it would be the 1970s. Like I know, like back when I was in high school and early college, I would talk big game about the 60s, but it's mainly because I was like on a Beatles, like Beatles was my starting point for like really like for my music appreciation. Like I've had, you know, Disney's Greatest Hits Volume 2. I had Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed soundtrack, which featured Puffy Ami Yumi in it, and I have Puffy's third album, Nice, the American version. But and of course I used to listen to Queen sporadically, but I didn't really start listening to an entire band and its entire discography until senior year of high school, where I started listening to the Beatles. But despite that, I would still have to say the 70s because for me there's more variety of bands that I do like that are in the 70s, like AC/DC was from 1973, Kiss was 1973, U2, Queen. Yeah, I think Queen was also from the 70s.
Yeah, they're from the 70s.
Yeah. Let's see. Dire Straits, like 5 out of 6 albums were from the were from the 70s. A lot of Bad Company's albums were from the 70s. Like only the first album was from the 60s. Let's see what else was from the 70s. U2. I think Blue Oyster Cult started towards the end of the 1970s. Let me just make sure. Blue Oyster Cult. Yeah, Blue Oyster Cult. They started in okay, let's see. Their first album was, hold on, let me just jump to the discography real quick. Yeah, their first album was 1972. Like the actual band's been around before that, but their first album was 1972, so I'm just gonna say they're a 70s band. Fantastic band, you know. Their first album, Agents of Fortune, Spectres, Cultosaurus Erectus, Fire of Unknown Origin. Ghost Stories just came out in April of this year. which had a cover of a Beatles song, by the way. Yeah, so I'd have to say 70s is probably my favorite era for music. Oh, and Aerosmith also started in the 70s.
Mm. Yeah, I would say 70s. Yeah, because when I was a kid, like I was listening to like I remember listening to a music that has like guitars and electrics and like
Hmm.
drums like banging it. So I was like, yeah, that's got to be rock music.
Yeah,
And Queen, it's pretty awesome.
yeah,
Yeah, like I never. I just. Yeah, it's just that during that time in the 70s, like the musics so are so like energetic and captivating, and
yeah,
it's just it's not like the music today. It's like the music back then is just
yeah.
pure
It's
raw
indescribable.
creativity.
It,
Pure raw
yeah, like
creativity.
it was very undescribably creative, and I like to imagine the 1950s started rock and roll, 1960s fermented it, and then 1970s blew it up,
Yeah,
and then
it's
the 80s just spread it out.
yeah, 70s is kind of like it's like it's like these bands, these rock stars back in the 70s are like experimenting a lot of things in the music industry, and guess what? It
Mhm.
just blew up right out, just blew a hole in the sky with their music, their raw energy, their raw creativity, and just pure passion just to play those instruments and just create and make themselves like legends that are
Yeah,
today.
yeah, no, like rock and roll is amazing, and I know that there's some guy out there probably making a documentary called "The Death of Rock and Roll." All I'm gonna say is rock and roll ain't noise pollution, rock and roll ain't gonna die
Nope.
over
It's
my
not.
dead body.
It's to me, rock and roll is not going to die as long as I'm breathing, and also I'm gonna pass it along and along and
Yeah,
along.
yeah, because as Kiss would say in their Revenge album, God gave rock and roll to you, gave rock and roll to you, he put it in the soul of everyone.
Hmm. All right, let's move on to the next comment.
All right, okay. I wish Russ could live to see Mr. Holland in the final scene. Yeah,
Uh,
it is
I
sad,
wish, but it's
but
yeah.
yeah, but think of it this way. If Russ didn't die, it wouldn't have inspired Michael to graduate high school and then become a council member and then stab Mr. Holland in the back. But that's neither here or there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, also F. Will Macy's character in the film. Yeah, there's always that one vice principal who becomes
Yeah.
full principal. Oh, and one thing we did not mention is I love how the first principal in the movie, like as a retirement gift, she gave Glenn a compass,
Uh-huh.
which is a reference to the speech she made earlier in the film. So, well, that's it for Mr. Holland's Opus. Let us know what you guys thought about this movie. Did you enjoy it like we did? Like, do you think it was another trash film from the 1990s? Like, are there people that you feel like you should share it with, like who you think might really benefit from seeing this film? Let us know in the comments, and of course, be sure to comment, like, and subscribe to us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Ding the bell icon to stay notified for our latest videos. And yeah, like we are almost done with this month's theme. We only have one more movie to go, and on July 30th, man, can you believe it's July's almost over? We will be doing the final film of the month, which is In His Father's Shoes. And if you're interested in watching this film with us over this week, you can watch it for free on Tubi TV. It's a free app. Unfortunately, there's a lot of commercials. You can't premium subscribe your way out of the commercials, but at least you could legally support the movie by watching it on Tubi TV.
There you
Um,
go.
Yeah, I actually enjoyed this movie, and that movie I actually did watch from start to end. So yay! Um, so yeah, that's the movie we're gonna be doing, and that will end off Trapped at Grandma's month. So yeah, also check out our recent vlogs. We've done a Robo Toy Fest, and if you want to say hi to us in person, we will be at Power Morphicon next month, August 23rd to the 25th at Pasadena Convention Center. We'll be there for all 3 days, so definitely say hi to us. We'll be wearing our classic blazers, and the reason why we're at why we're going to be at Power Morphicon is because we represent our sister channel, the Morphin Network, where we discuss all things Tokusatsu. On Mondays, we do Ultraman Arc. On Wednesdays, Kamen Rider Gotchard. On Thursdays, Bakugan Sentai Boom Boomger. And on Sundays, we do Kamen Rider Fies. And yeah, we're hoping to eventually come up with some new Power Ranger content for that channel. We're just trying to figure out what ferments and whatnot. But, you know, and also we're going to have a bunch of new content for this channel as well. So definitely stick around for that. We'll announce things as they come. And also, additionally, for this week on our sister channel, we will be having a guest interview. So, yay. You can find about that and more on our social network, on the Morphin Network, on Instagram, Facebook, etc. And if you want to find our personal content, Clement, where can the people find you?
Find me on Instagram, Celia1031. Just right down there.
Yeah, and you can find me on Instagram at Boken_Kabuto and on Twitch at twitch.tv/BokenKabuto. With all that said, guys, thank you guys so much for watching. Stay safe, stay hydrated. Update your emergency kits. I know it's super hot up here in the Northern Hemisphere, but we'll survive because we know how to love. We'll stay alive. We'll make music, lots and lots of music. We'll appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Holland, for everything you've done for us this week, and we'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.